Hey everybody, welcome to Inspire Your Success podcast. My name is Leonard, former corporate zombie turned lifestyle entrepreneur. I'm on a mission to inspire millions of people to stop settling for average and create the life that you deserve. Each week, I'll be bringing on world-class experts, entrepreneurs, and high achievers to give you the inspiration to take massive action. I'm confident these successful people will give you the spark to create an epic life and business. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Here's your episode. Welcome to the first episode of Inspire Your Success. Very excited for today's guest, John Malott. John is a world-class entrepreneur, speaker, author, and coach. I got a chance to meet John at a Build Your Empire Mastermind event here in Scottsdale, Arizona in October and was blown away. He is one of the most motivated and generous human beings I've had the chance to meet. I think that you're going to learn so much about entrepreneurship, mindset, and the ability to create belief within yourself. John will clearly lay out the habits, goals, and rituals that you need to be successful. Here's John. Today's guest, I am very, very excited about. I got a chance to meet him at a local event by Build Your Empire, more of a mastermind and an event. John, thank you so much for being here today.
Man, it's my pleasure, brother. It's good to see you again.
It's great to see you. I appreciate you taking the time. I know when we spoke last, you have a lot of projects going on, a very busy entrepreneur. So just wanted to extend my gratitude and say thank you again for taking the time out to be here.
No, it's my pleasure, man. I'm obviously a big fan of entrepreneurship, and I'm a big fan of people that support the movement, so to speak. So yeah, it's my pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, great. I know now, like I mentioned, you have a lot of projects going on. You're really, a busy guy, but doing what you love. So can you take us back a little bit? Like, how did you get started? Were you one of those Gary V, hustling, selling lemonade, flipping stuff when you were a kid? Or was that something that you found later on in life?
No, I wish I had the Gary V story. I was very off track as a young person. So entrepreneurship for sure. Nobody saw me as a kid, a teenager, or a young man. Nobody saw me as an entrepreneur for sure. Bum, yes. Entrepreneur, no. But really, entrepreneurship, found me by accident. I'll kind of tell you the Reader's Digest version.
Oh yeah.
I don't have all the things society says you're supposed to have to be successful. I don't have a college degree. I don't even have a high school diploma. And you know how society has a way of putting people in boxes: color, skin, gender, education, all these different things. So I fit real well into that box society had made for me. As a 10th grade dropout, I found myself working over at General Electric as a custodial engineer. I had a title. I was a janitor. I could sweep a mean floor, basically. And, I was struggling. I was working paycheck to paycheck, struggling to keep up with the big mouth promises I made to family, friends, bill collectors. I was getting nowhere very, very fast. But I was fortunate, looking back. I didn't seem fortunate at the time, but when I was 15 years old, I had my first felony arrest. I robbed a movie theater, of all things, at 15 years old. Found myself locked in detention facilities. When I'm finally through that and released, in my neighborhood, crack cocaine was hitting pretty hard at that time. And I found myself addicted to cocaine, particularly smoking cocaine. And by 17, I had a heart attack from smoking cocaine. And that put me, and there was a series of circumstances that went along with that I was also ended up locked up again in a facility. But this facility had a drug rehabilitation program attached to it. I got in that, and I had a mentor, I had a counselor named Dave who saw more in me than I saw in myself. He was the first person to introduce me to personal development. At 17 years old, he gave me a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And it was the beginning. It was that seed planted. Of course, that tree didn't grow for a long time, but that seed was planted. And it was later on, I ended up writing a book with Les Brown called The Power of One. But Les Brown talks about when your mind expands, it can never go back to its original dimensions. So it's interesting, even though I went back later on to the same neighborhood I had to go back to, because that's where I lived, to the same associations that were all crappy, but that's where I lived. I went back to the very drug that almost killed me. Matter of fact, a testament to the power of drug addiction. But my mind was expanded. So this time when I was back in the neighborhood, I was doing the same things, I was hanging with the same people. I was doing the exact same activities, but this time it was weighing on my psyche. You know what I mean? I knew this time I was doing wrong. So it was different. You know, before it was just what we did. I didn't know any better. I should have, but I didn't. But now I knew better, and it was really starting to bother me. And then the last time I was arrested, it was July 4th, 1993. This time, you know, I'm a man based on age,
right?
Only, not on maturity level or any other metric you would judge a man by. Now I have a child. I'm being pulled out of my home by the police department, and I'm 20. What am I? 23, 24 years old. My daughter's 2, and I'll never forget as long as I live. This is where everything changed for me. As I'm being, you know, let out in handcuffs, my daughter's screaming. She doesn't really know what's going on, but she knows Daddy's being taken out of the house by a bunch of people she doesn't know. I end up locked in a grown man's facility. I'm locked in a bullpen in Milwaukee County jail. And it's July 4th weekend, so it's a busy place during this time. There's no room on the bench because all the hardened criminals already got the best real estate. I have to sit on the floor. Anyhow, but in there, 2 things happened. Well, before that, I got in an altercation with the police as I was in, you know, before I even got to the county jail. So now I'm in the bullpen with stitches in my head from me having an altercation with the police. So I'm miserable. I'm on the floor, and 2 things kept playing. Prior to that, I had a man tell me that a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. So that was replaying over in my head. And Lauren's face, my 2-year-old daughter, bawling her eyes out. Here I am sitting on the floor in a grown man's jail. I can't even barely take care of myself, much less the child I have. And a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And it was in there on that floor, in that bullpen, that I made a decision I would never live like this again. And that's when I really started to pursue personal development, which led me to entrepreneurship, because nobody wanted a 2-time felon, drug addict with no education working for them, which later on turned out to be a blessing. But at the time, it was frustrating. So that's how my entrepreneurial journey began. Long story.
No,
but that's
absolutely. No, that's incredible. I mean, so you had the moment at 18, but you know, you basically said at 24 was when you really had, I guess 18 was the moment of, wow, personal development. There's a lot out here. And then, like you said, once your mind expanded, that, you know, at 24, that was it. So that was like the moment that you finally had it. So 24, you're having that moment. Where do you go from there? Because even if you do have, you know, the right mindset, you know, obviously you probably don't have too much experience at this point. And like you said, you have some arrests and stuff on the record. So where do you take that? Because it's got to be hard when you have the right mindset, but people don't want to accept you yet.
Yeah, no, you know, doors were not opening at all. You know, it was, I thought that, you know, when I made the decision to change my life, that there would be parades in the street, everything would start happening, and, you know, everything would be great, but it was nothing like that. Matter of fact, it was interesting. I had more people throwing rocks, you know, and talking crazy, and even in my own family, like, oh, you think I'm like, I'm just trying not to be a bum. I'm trying not to lose my life, because it's interesting that my sister, when she was 21 years old, she died from a heroin overdose. I have a brother who's in his 40s who is a active heroin addict. He's probably 70 pounds. He doesn't have teeth. His pursuit of heroin every single day, it's amazing that he's even still alive. So how do you have, you know, 3 people basically coming from the same environment, same household? But it really came down to, you know, personal development. It's the books you read. It's the people you associate with and the events that you attend. So all I did, I really just traded one addiction for another. Mm-hmm. I became addicted to personal development. I became addicted to entrepreneurship, or at least the possibility. So watch this, Michael. I pursued my entrepreneurial endeavors with the same tenacity and the same persistence that I used to pursue my drug habit. Because I'll tell you what, I never missed the night of getting high. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, oh, it's Tuesday night, I think I'll take the night off. That didn't exist in my world. And I had no money and I had no job. But somehow I figured out how to get the thing that I thought I needed, or that I wanted. And so I started to trick my brain into that same type of thinking when it came to business. Now, I had so many failures. We would need like a 5-day podcast to just discuss my failures. But I did. I kept going from one failure to the next failure without losing momentum. until things started to happen. But and I'll tell you, network marketing, a lot of people don't realize this. I don't tell this story a lot, but network marketing, it was really where I got traction, because network marketing said, I'll teach you everything you need to know. We'll teach you the skills that a Fortune 500, CEO has under his belt. It'll take you, you'll do it in bits and pieces, and you can do it for free. Mm-hmm. And Robert Kiyosaki now writes about it, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Cash Flow Quadrants, about the power of joining a network marketing company. So I joined a network marketing company early, and I was learning the skills that eventually led me to being able to build massive organizations in network marketing, and then outside of network marketing in traditional businesses. So that network marketing was where things started to happen. Not right away. It took me 7 years to make $100,000. So I didn't feel like much of a success. But, my first year I made $4,000. The second year I made $16,000. No, $16,000 a year is not a big deal. But what I saw was the jump from 4,000 to 16,000. Like, man, if I could get that percentage jump every single year, what would happen? But when I finally cracked $100,000 in my 7th year, the very next year it went to 224,000.
Wow.
And then a few years later, I cracked $1 million a year. Then it went to $2 million a year. And, today, tens of millions of dollars later. But people don't realize the story. They don't know, I'm in my bed sucking my thumb in the fetal position, crying every night. Like, what the heck have I done? This is terrible. But things changed pretty quickly.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it sounded like you changed your environment. That was obviously one of the things. Like, how did you go about that? Because like you said, you have family. I'm sure you still have friends. People are, like you said, kind of heckling you. I think that the environment thing has changed my life, just going to events like yours and Build Your Empire and just doing other things, hanging out with new people. You have new ideas. Like, can you talk a little bit about how people can shift their environment, or how you were able to do it?
Well, I was fortunate from the standpoint, again, I had these people that came in my life and started, showing me stuff. First thing they showed me is that I was an idiot and that I was arrogant. I don't understand how I even had an ego. What I'm talking about? I had nothing, but I still had, somehow I had this big head. I thought I was something, but I was, I hadn't done anything. But I was fortunate that I had people that would tell me the truth. Today it's hard to tell people the truth because people are very fragile. And if you tell them the truth, they want to sue you. They'll post all kinds of mean stuff about you on social media. They'll hate on you for the rest of your life.
Right.
So I always tell people today, I said, when they ask me for advice, I always say, do you want me to tell you the truth, or do you want me to tell you what you want to hear? So I try to preference, that. But that's my fiance interrupting our live Skype call here.
No worries.
But so basically, I just what I did I focused heavily on changing my associations. I was fortunate that the network marketing company that I was part of, they had events that they were doing twice a week right in my city.
Okay.
So what I did, instead of going to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, I went to a business presentation. I sat there. I had nobody with me. I really sucked really bad, but I took notes on everything, on the environment, on the speaker in front of the room, how he moved his hands or how she spoke, where the inflection came from, because it wasn't necessarily what they were saying, but I was feeling from what they were saying. That really got me, and I started catching on. It's not always what you say; it's what people feel from what you say. Anyways, I'm long answers.
That's fantastic. I love it. I think it's just so big because people, stay in the same environments and they want different results, and in all areas of life. If you have your fridge stocked with bad food, you're not going to lose weight. And, people just don't keep doing the same thing over and over again. So I think your story is super powerful, that you actively made it out and you just kept staying out and mixing up your environment. Was this during your, I think in the event you talked about kind of your two-tone car? Was that at this point?
Yeah, that my Pontiac 2000 two-tone, one-tone rust, one-tone dirt. That was my car. And I was in Wisconsin. That car actually had a hole in the floorboard. So you could see the lines on the freeway when you're going on the freeway. You could feel the air and the ice and the salt would come up through the hole. I would always joke around that when my daughter, I wasn't even smart enough to put my daughter in a seatbelt in the front seat. I was still brain dead, but I was learning. I was a joke. I was always worried that one time I would look over and my daughter would be out that hole in the bottom of the car. But yeah, it was a mess. It was one of those cars that you have to name so it'll start in the winter time. What I mean? It's like
Wisconsin, not warm either. So
one more time, just one more time.
absolutely.
Yeah.
How so you're 31 then? That's when you make your first million, is that what you said, or maybe your first 100,000, and then from there you kept going?
It wasn't until I was early 30s I made my first $100,000 year. Yeah. But the beauty of $100,000 a year, the way I was getting at that time, was I was doing it from home. I was doing it on my terms. When we go back, I don't want to tell you how far back, but because I'm with the millennials. But when you go back, people were so against home businesses. Now we got so many people making money from home because of social media. But back then it was like taboo. Like, oh my God, you should get a real job. Mm-hmm. But people had real jobs all around me. What I had that they didn't have, I had money and I had freedom. And there's a big difference going to a job every day to make $100,000 a year compared to sleeping until you're done sleeping, then get up, make a few phone calls, maybe go to the gym, maybe write in your journal, maybe make a few more calls. You know what I mean? I had so much flexibility that I was like, oh, now I get it. And so I've had freedom built into my deal. I always talk about building lifestyle businesses. Life is what you live, but style is how you live it. I know people that have, make big money, but they've got no lifestyle. They're not living a life, and their kids hate them. They're never available. They're always somewhere. And I was determined early. That's why I say I'm with the millennials, because the millennials, they don't want to do what their parents or grandparents do. They don't want to be stuck in a cubicle all day. They sure ain't going to work in a factory for 8 to 12 hours. I had that mindset very early on. I wanted to be free. I wanted to do something fulfilling, something that had purpose, even if it meant it took me longer to get to it. I would rather be broke and free than to be rich and enslaved was my philosophy.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's the reason I started this blog, podcast, brand, because exactly that. I was making money, but I was still miserable, and I was like, "There's got to be more to it." But so many people never have that awakening. Why is it that you think that so many people just are comfortable going through the motions and kind of settling with their relationship, their business, their career? It seems like you hear a lot of people whining, but not enough people taking action and getting out there. Do you think it's fear? Is it the uncertainty? What do you think? Because I'm right there with you when it comes to building that remote-based business.
I think you mentioned a couple of things. For sure, fear is part of it. I don't think it's a fear of failure. I think it's a fear of success. Because what you have to become to be successful, it means you have to take responsibility. And that was tough for me in the beginning when I started realizing what it was actually going to take to lead people. Now I'm responsible for other people, and I was having a hard time being responsible for myself. So I had a lot of hangups so I was good at self-sabotage. So I would self-sabotage myself when I started to get a little traction. Mm-hmm. And looking back, it wasn't because of failure. I was a great failure. Matter of fact, most of us do failure very, very well. Some people get so comfortable in failure. It's just like, this is what I am. And then we almost wear it proudly as a badge that, right. I always call it being ostentatious in our lack of ostentatiousness. In other words, I don't have anything and I'm proud of it. And there's a whole movement around doing nothing, having anything, and let's hate the rich and let's hate the people who are doing stuff. I'll never understand that, but it's a big thing. And I unfortunately see a lot. And I think the other part is programming. I think we've been programmed and conditioned forever to what? Go to school so you can get good grades. Once you get good grades, you can get that degree. And once you have that degree, then you can go get a good job. Mm-hmm. And then you go work for someone for 40 years and then go greet at Walmart in your retirement years. Instead of living your golden years on a beach somewhere, you're underneath the golden arches frying French fries. I don't, that's been the program. It's in front of us. You can see it. I'm being a little sarcastic about it, but it's the truth. And we're programmed and conditioned. If you fall out of line, you know why? Because the people who created that system, they don't want you to be entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because now you're competing with them. They don't want you to become more, to get better, to become greater. That becomes competition, for the ones that broke out of that box and said, I'm not going to go get a job. I'm not going to go work for someone else. I'm not going to build someone else's dream. So it's a handful of us that decide to live our dreams and pursue our dreams. But what's great about it is we get an opportunity then to show someone else that it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what's cool about that. And I apologize, I get going because I get excited because I love this stuff. But if you ever see like in the circus, they have these big animals that they have, like a bear in a tutu dancing around or riding a unicycle. Now this bear belongs in the woods free. And I think if he had a choice between being in the circus, riding a unicycle in a tutu, or being free in the woods, he would probably choose free. But we program and condition that bear to dance around and do stuff that's not natural for it with little treats. But every now and then you'll see like animals going wild, like the elephant has had enough and he takes out the trainer, everybody around. You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
That's like us. At some point we've seen enough people free, or we get a little taste of it, and it's like, I'm not being shackled anymore, and we just go crazy, or at least our families think we're nuts. Our spouses and everybody closest to it thinks we're nuts, but we're on a pursuit for freedom, and that's me. I felt like I was that caged lion, for the longest time, and I finally got a chance to be free.
Right. No, I completely agree. Like you said, they kind of give you that treat as a paycheck. It's insurance, it's benefits, it's security. It's, it's just a bribe to give up your life basically. And it's just how much can they pay you? So
that's a great way to put it. The bribe to give up your life.
It's just dangling that carrot, and then you go to quit. And then, when I went to quit, they tried to give me more money. And I was like, no, this is it happening right now. But it's so easy to do because, like you said, you are going to get judgment. It is going to be extremely hard. What are some of the ways you think that people can break those beliefs? Because I fully believe that identity and beliefs really shape your productivity, what you're able to accomplish in life. And like you said, most people are that chained animal, at the carnival or in the zoo. They're programmed to be average. Like, how can people kind of break that, not necessarily quitting their job or doing something drastic like we did, but what are some of the things you think that can help people?
I think for sure, number one, I'm a big proponent of personal development, what you become. I've got a small part of my library back here, and then I have the rest of my library. If you come to any of my houses, you come to my offices, you'll see library reading is a big part. For sure, reading had a big impact on me. And today it's so easy too, because almost all these books are available on audio. So if you're like me and you don't like to read, but I subscribe to the slight edge philosophy, or the compound effect, where it's the little things you do every single day. Because people think there's like some big secret to success, and there's not. The difference between success and failure is very simple. So success is just simple disciplines practiced every single day. It's easy to do, but easy not to do. Like, it's easy to read 10 pages or 15 pages of a good book, but it's also easy not to do that. Mm-hmm. So success is simple disciplines practiced every single day. The opposite will be failure, and all failure is simple errors and judgment practiced every single day. You don't become a failure necessarily overnight. I mean, you might have some things that happen that don't quite work out, but you really become a failure when you give up and quit. But these simple errors and judgment, like in health, it's not the one Big Mac that kills you. You know what I mean? It's a combination of eating fast food over a period of time, and now you're dead. Or smoking cigarettes. If we saw someone smoke one cigarette, they drop dead, we would probably never smoke. But you can smoke for a long time before it shows up in your lungs, and then you die. And so, eating healthy every day, if you got two 20-year-olds and one's eating a Big Mac every day and one's eating the salad every day, they don't look much different in their 20s. Mm-hmm. But at some point, you start to see that separation. And that was a difference. So how I got out of it was reading books, attending seminars, like the Build Your Empire events. We are so focused on providing the fuel to that spark that's already it's already inside of us. You just sometimes need someone to help pull it out, or there were some speakers up there. I was taking notes on some of the speakers. Like, oh my, this was the missing link, for this area, for that area. And so it was the books I read, the seminars I attended, and the people I associated with. So I tried to weasel my way into circles that I wasn't quite ready for yet. But how I did it was I would go to events, and people I respected or I thought were great or whatever, I would just kind of listen in. If wherever they were, I'd try to get over it. I didn't, they weren't my friends, but I would try to, sneak an ear in and try to get some notes. And later on, it's interesting. Some of those very people now I'm sharing the stage with, written books with, have traveled the world with, have had mentor me, or it's interesting. Some of them now are calling me to ask my advice, which is very strange when someone you looked up to is now calling you to ask you your advice on stuff. I'm like, bro, I can't give you advice, man. I think you're God.
That's excellent. No, that's full circle right there. That's how you know you've made it. That's
Crazy.
That's amazing. So I know mentors, I completely agree, or, being in these environments, having these people are super helpful. What are some of the ways you think people can reach out to mentors? Because I feel like that's something that was tough for me. I was like, well, I had these maybe limiting beliefs kind of kick in, like, well, I don't really have as much to offer. Why would John want to go have lunch with me? You start to have these talks to yourself, but once you start to learn that, like, people really do want to help, like, how can people reach out? Is that something they should shoot them an email, call them? Like, what do you think are some good ways to find people that, you think can help you change your life?
I think it depends. Well, you're a great example. You reached out. How did you reach out to me?
Reached out, after attending the event, met you there, and then Instagram.
So you hit me on Instagram and invited me to lunch, and it just happened to work out. I had an opening that particular day. We had lunch. I needed to eat. And it was good conversation.
Salad. I don't know if that counts as food.
Yeah. But, so it was, I think you just have to do it, but you can't be offended if that person is not available. Because, like, when I look at my schedule now, I just launched a new company about 2 weeks ago. And even getting on this call, I'm scrambling just to get on this call. And I know as soon as I get off this call, it's back to back to back to back. I'm in building mode. I'm in the trenches. I'm in the dirt right now. So I'll limit my mentoring and coaching outside of my business that I'm launching, because I just have to. Our time is valuable. Mm-hmm. But I think if you have somebody that you really relate to or that you're really feeling, I think you should reach out. The other one thing you do now is on social media, I would just start commenting on all of their stuff. I would start liking and commenting, and then maybe every now and then throw something in the, my boy LL Cool J, he follows Build Your Empire. Oh. And I've been following LL Cool J since I was a kid. I hit him up because I saw him on the Tonight Show promoting his new Sirius XM radio station. And I hit him up and I said, hey, man, congratulations on your new radio station. And he responded back, and we've been carrying on a conversation ever since. And we're working on getting him to the event. Casey Adams reaches out to everybody. He's got K-Camp coming to our event. I mean, we got, we're working. We got DJ Khaled following us on the Build Your Empire thing. Tyrese, Nick Cannon. We got some big names, and we're just simply reaching out, just like anybody would. They're bigger than we are, and we're just reaching out and saying, hey, we love your work. We love what you stand for, and we're encouraging them or applauding them, which opens up the door. Casey Adams got me to invest in him, and eventually in the Build Your Empire brand, and I made him the CEO of our company at 18 years old. By doing the same thing. I call him he's the king of DM sliding. He was in my DM telling me I was great. And I said, oh, that's all you got to do. Tell me I'm great, and I'll probably respond back to you.
Absolutely. No, I love that. I just wanted you to say it in that way, because I think people are kind of scared of rejection, or maybe think, oh, I can't believe they didn't reach out or, hit me back, just because, like you said, people are busy. And, as long as you're persistent, give them some praise. That way you're able to, start a conversation and just see how you can add value. So
yeah, I'll tell you this, Michael, the young entrepreneurs have an advantage, because more mature entrepreneurs, we know the next generation. We know how important fueling that fire is. And it's not just great. It's great for society as a whole. And a lot of us who are building businesses, at a certain age, it becomes less and less about the money. And it becomes more and more about fulfillment, about purpose. And I have written on my arm, if you can see it, legacy. So I always say in the beginning, it was about success, which success is when you add value to yourself. Then it became about significance. And significance, that's a stage I went through when significance is about adding value to others. And now I'm in this stage of legacy. I'm about, when I'm gone, 10 generations from now, I want my great grandchildren to be speaking about me, not just that I made a bunch of money, but because of who I was, because of my philosophy that carries on, and that lasts way longer. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So you got people in different stages. So you catch somebody in their legacy stage, that's why you see more mentors today that have, you see billionaires that are pouring into kids, because there's more to it than the money. There's this, we want to perpetuate positivity. We want to, look, I want to I believe now I'm helping to eradicate poverty through entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
It's part of my purpose.
I love that. That is powerful. I love the three phases of life that you mentioned there. I think that's great. And, obviously Build Your Empire is a huge part of the legacy now. It's an event that I highly recommend everybody attend. I know you guys are going to be doing a lot and having a lot more coming out, because it's just one of those things where you are, like you said, learning from people, really getting some great connections. I mean, the people you meet at those kind of events are half the great part too, meeting like-minded people. And I guess, can you talk a little bit about how great that is to have that kind of support system? You've talked several times in the interview about how important it has been to, attend these events and masterminds, because entrepreneurship's hard, and I think that was one thing that threw me really, really big the first year. Was like, I cannot believe how many times it felt like I take one step forward, 5 back, and so, you went from 24 to 31, you went from $4,000 to $100,000 a year. You obviously kept going up. I'm sure you had a lot of ups and downs, but can you just talk a little bit about what people are going to expect when they do enter that entrepreneurship world?
Yeah. First off, it is hard in the beginning. It's because you got to learn these skills, and that takes time, and it takes energy, and it can be frustrating. You're going to run into a lot of haters. Haters seem like they rule the world. They really don't, but they're just louder than non-haters. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But haters have fueled me. Because look, in the book Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, he writes about the 13 things that made the great industrial barons, that made fortunes in their lifetime, the J.P. Morgans and the Rockefellers and the Carnegies. And he said there was 13 things that they all had in common, that he believed were the prerequisites for success. But early in the book, he says the number one reason why so many people have so little and so few have so much is because the masses, of course, they're living lives of quiet desperation, but they're listening to the opinions of family and friends. And when I read that, it all clicked for me. I was like, okay, my brother talks shit about what I'm doing. All my family members in the early days around the Thanksgiving dinner had nothing but negative stuff to say about me and my ventures and what I was doing. And, oh, you're still doing that thing. And I'm like, well, are you still doing that thing? You've been there 20 years and still driving the same car, still living in the same neighborhood. At least I'm doing something to get out of this crappy environment in this neighborhood, and hopefully away from you too, family. But
couldn't agree more.
You have to be prepared for that. I tell people, be careful what you're looking for, what you wish for, because the very thing that you want out of entrepreneurship, you have to be willing to give up in the beginning. I wanted money from entrepreneur. I expected money from entrepreneurship. Guess what I had to give up?
Money.
I wanted time freedom. I wanted to be free. I wanted my days to be whatever I wanted them to be, but I had to give up that time in the beginning to get time freedom on the back end. The challenge is everybody wants the return, but they don't want to make the investment. So if you're going to choose entrepreneurship, it'll separate you real quick. I always say time will promote you or expose you. If you choose entrepreneurship, you're going to be exposed very quickly for what your philosophies are. If you're just here for entitlement, or you think you're going to get online and build a big social media following, and you're going to be the next Gary Vee, getting $150,000 to show up at an event for an hour, good luck with that whole deal. This is frustrating at times. But in the end, it'd be the most rewarding thing to do if your philosophies are right. If you're in it just not for yourself, but for other people. When you start adding value to other people's life, even if you're not making a nickel on that particular thing, I've realized that those seeds were planted. Those seeds will go to harvest at some point in my life. You know what I mean? The time we're spending, I'm making no money here. We went to lunch. I made no money from that lunch. I don't care. I never thought about whether I would or wouldn't. But what I do know is that seed was planted, and somewhere along the line, people are going to say, John got lucky. No, John went to lunch with Michael with expecting nothing to gain. John did a podcast with him with nothing to gain, and you and lots of other people. That's the reason why I continue to get blessed. Someone else wrote the rules to the universe. I didn't create the rules. I'm just trying not to violate them, because whenever you violate the rules, you're out of alignment and you end up miserable. And I'm not talking about speeding rules, because I violate those all the time. But
no, I
know what I'm talking about.
Completely agree. Life gives to the givers and takes from the takers. So.
And you can't hide it, because some people are very charismatic, and sometimes you can get bamboozled by some of these people. You think, but again, time promote, will exposes everybody or promotes, and you can see the difference. Just give a little bit of time in between. You'll see exactly what you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I can completely relate to when you go out and try and do something, you do have to give up money. You have to give up time. You're going to hear it from people you didn't even know, and that's been hard. That is one thing I think that a lot of people don't expect. You think your closest people, your spouse, your family, your friends are going to be your biggest cheerleaders. And a lot of them are, but man, you're going to have a few of them that feels like you're, trying to, because I think they're scared of you changing. They're scared of you becoming something and leaving them or something like that. But it's something that I think a lot of people need to know about before, just so you're aware of it, because at first it kind of feels like you're just getting hated on for no reason, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like, why do you hate on me? I'm trying to do something with my life.
I'm trying to get us out of this situation or get you this. So
it makes no sense. It's the craziest thing. But again, we've been programming and conditioning people this way for a long time. And I say all the time that we do live in kind of an entitlement society. We live in America, man, where if you're living in poverty in America, you can get out of poverty here. I've been to countries where if you live in poverty, no matter how much positive thinking you do, how much reading you do, you have so many obstacles in front of you. They don't have programs for you. They don't have education. All across the board. They don't have entrepreneurs showing up there. In some of these countries, it's really hard. Mm-hmm. To break through and break free is a rare deal. But in America, there's not a single neighborhood anywhere in the United States that we haven't had massive, crazy success stories come out of. I don't care how broken down, how beat up, some of the craziest, depressing stories I've ever heard. And these people have risen to fame and fortune beyond imagination. So we just make excuses here. And then we blame the government. And then we blame our parents. We blame the school system. Man, forget all that. Here, you can make a decision one day. You could wake up tomorrow morning and say, today is the day I change everything. And then you go on then you can start on that journey and start putting that slight edge to work a little bit today, a little bit tomorrow. I'm going to do what other people are not willing to do today so I can have tomorrow what other people can't possibly have. And then here, the last philosophy I'll leave you with is find someone that has what you want. Whether that's your spiritual walk, financial walk, social, whatever the area. Find someone that has what you want and that you're looking for. Find out what they did to get that thing, and then do that thing until you get it. Not until it gets difficult, not until your mother tells you it's a scam or your best friend's cousin sister says you're just this and you'll never make it. You do it until you get it, and you relentlessly pursue that thing. And guess what? One day you're going to get it.
I could not agree more. I love that so much. It's more than you'll know. Do you think that having like that clear goal is so important? Because I feel like I think I've, read different studies, anywhere between, 5 to 10% of Americans even set goals. And then of those people, they don't review them. They don't find people. Like, how important do you think it is to like just have a goal, monthly goal, yearly, like, and what have you done to maybe help your goals, happen? Obviously you've been relentless, but anything else?
Yeah. I believe in goals. I got stuff all around my house. I'm looking right. Well, you can't see it, but I have a little, I don't know if you can see it now. I have a little Post-it note.
Yep.
It says $1 million per month, every month. It's one thing to make $1 million, or to, get a check because you sold a company or something, you get, millions of dollars, which, has happened. But, I want to have $1 million residual income. I want $1 million a month coming in every single month, cash flow. I want that goose laying big golden eggs. You know what I mean? So I have goals in my mirror, in all my bathrooms. I have that same thing everywhere. And then every morning, Najla and I, my amazing fiance, we have a little ritual we do with the journal where we, what we're grateful for, what we expect out of this day. And then we have some affirmations, that we affirm, and we write it in there. And then at night we do the same thing. So about 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night. So 10 minutes out of our whole day to do this. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you, it's had a huge impact on reaching goals. And then we also do, hold on, I'll show you something. We do this kind of stuff a lot. These vision boards or dream boards. And at the top, we write basically, I will until, and then you can see the kind of stuff that, we put on these boards, family. It's not just money, but investments. She put different things, relating to getting married, to me, the best person in the world she could possibly marry.
Absolutely.
So these are our vision, dream boards. And every year, at least once a year, we do that stuff, because it's amazing what happens. You start to trick your subconscious mind, and it starts to go to work even while you're sleeping on getting those things. Now, there's a whole lot of, I've been to so many events and training where I used to think all this stuff is like, it's bullshit. I'm not anymore, because if you go back to my vision boards, my dream boards that I was doing 20 years ago, and you go look at the house on Camelback Mountain that I live in, you go look at my beach house in Puerto Penasco, this stuff came true. The cars, the stuff, the money in the bank account, the stuff came true. Finding the right woman, I put Naujla on my dream board a few years ago. I had to kiss a few frogs, but eventually found the right one. Anyhow, but I just believe in this stuff strong.
I love it. My next question was going to be, what are your daily rituals for that? And you already answered it, because I started really getting into that personal development, reading the Success Principles, Think and Grow Rich, stuff like that last year. And you're right. You kind of get you tell people about it, and people are like, wait, what? You read affirmations, you have cute vision board, you have these things. And it's just once you go to enough seminars, you learn it. And then you were saying, you are obviously super successful, and you're telling me you have fulfilled your vision boards from these practices. It's just so great to hear it and see it, because it's one thing to read, Jack Canfield telling me about it and all these other people, but to literally be talking to someone and having that. So I just hope people are taking those daily rituals and using them, because like you said, it takes 5 minutes a day.
Yeah. I'll tell you something. I just noticed down here, and I hadn't paid attention to this. This board I did, it would have been a year ago. So yeah, we did it right after New Year's last year. So we're coming up on almost a year, but I put this private jet here, and it just clicked to me that it must have been June of last year. So 6 months after I did that, I ended up becoming a partner in a company called SetJet.
Oh,
it just clicked to me. And so we have a private jet service. So not only will I have access to a jet, but jets. Can you hear this coming out?
I hear the plural.
So it's it. I hadn't looked at it because I had it over in the corner. So that's interesting. Just another example that just hit me. This stuff works, man.
I love that. It's so good. It's so good to hear. And the I will until, I think people need to really hone in on that part, because it's not something that's going to instantly, you're not going to get the jet in 6 months. You're not going to, get the house. People are so impatient for success, which is kind of into my last question too. But I just love that you have that. So thank you so much again for sharing that. And before I ask my last question, where can people find you, learn more about you, follow you?
Yeah, please. The place I invest the most time would be Instagram. So my personal page is at John John Malott Malott, 1 L 2 T's, Malott. And then of course at Build Your Empire. That's our big business page. I would tell you, go there. We're providing mentoring, coaching. We've got a couple things right now. We're launching a $99. I think you're part of that. Mm-hmm. And you'll start seeing. We're going to be doing tons of mentoring and coaching, bringing in, big influence. Of course, inside of our team, we got amazing, brilliant minds in a lot of different areas. And so for $99 a month, the value is sick. It's through the roof what people are going to get from mentoring, just from the mentoring coaching. Forget about all the content that we're going to be putting out there, giving to them to help them progress in all different areas of their life. But, from team building, leadership, scaling businesses, getting the thinking right so that you can get your results right. All that stuff can be part of it, but giving people access. And then we're going to select every week. We'll probably select 5 or 10 people that we'll do one-on-one coaching. And then we'll once a month, we'll pick someone to bring to the Build Your Empire house, the 10,000 square foot house that we have in Paradise Valley, which is our entrepreneur incubator, where we'll select to come in and hang out for a day or a weekend or a couple days, and just see what's going on, and just, be part of that environment, because if you can immerse yourself around those minds, you eventually become one of them. So yeah, we're super stoked about that. So Instagram is really the best place to find me. And there I try to through my personal page, I try to hit everybody back personally. I don't have someone doing it. I'm trying to do that to keep a connection and stay relevant with my audience.
I love that. And I could not recommend your page enough. I love seeing it. You're always, it's not just, not just the plane. It's going to be the explanation of how you got there, the obstacles you have. So I will 100% link to that in the show notes and as well, so people can get to learn more about you guys.
And if you go there today, you'll see me, rapping. You'll see me with, my mic in my hand, changing the rap game.
I mean, what can't you do at this point?
Well, you go check it out for yourself. You might not think that I'm changing the rap game, but
a couple years, never know what can happen. Perfect. Well, great. Well, my last question, I'm fascinated with what, obviously we've talked a lot about success principles, success habits. What do you think is something that people can start doing as soon as they finish listening to this that's going to help them improve and / speed up success? Because like we've talked about, it's not overnight, but what do you think is something that people can start doing today to improve the quality of their life and really start creating a life that they love?
The first thing I would do is I would get a blank piece of paper and I would start writing some of this down. You wouldn't build a house without a blueprint, without the specs and things like that. So you got to take it from out of here, put it on a piece of paper. There's something magical about that. I would do that immediately. And it doesn't have to be elaborate. I write the way I talk, which, I barely have English. I can't spell. I can't do math. But I would just take it, put it on a piece of paper and start the process. And then from there you can take, so if I don't like money goals necessarily because it's too vague. I like maybe what money can do for you type goals, that type of thing. And then, because then you can work backwards and figure out what type of activity. Then you have to start identifying what's my skill set. Can I bring value to the marketplace? Will somebody pay me for the skills I currently have? If the answer is no, or it's not very much, like my skill set was I was a janitor, so I could sweep your floor and scrub your toilets, but nobody pays big money for that. So I caught on very quickly when I started writing my goals down that I was going to have to get some new skill sets. I was going to have to get some new thinking going on, change my skills, make myself more valuable to the workplace, to the marketplace, and then my income could change. So it depends on where you're at. There's some people that have some amazing skills right now that they could probably go into business for themselves, but maybe it's fear that's holding them back. So I would start writing that stuff down, really identify what your skill set is. What are people in your profession, what are they charging for that? And start building your brand around. Today you've got to build your brand. And I would start putting out content. Just look, if you are a great dancer, start putting some stuff out about your dancing. You know what I mean? And there's going to be a ton of people that want to be great dancers that will start finding their way to you. I don't care what it is, just figure it out. I mean, we watched at the event, the niches people find are amazing, dog washing. I don't care what it is, find something that just be great at it, but write it down, get it out of your head, put it on paper, and then find the people that are already crushing